Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARC Schooling, and today I'm going to bring you my May favorites. And again, I'm in denial because it can't possibly be June already. Like, it just can't. I'm not ready for June. Anyway, since time won't wait for me to catch up to it, I'm just gonna have to deal with it. So anyway, I have a few favorites that I wanted to talk about from the month of May. I'm gonna start with the book. I read about, I think, 7 books in the month of May. And of those that I can talk about, the one that sticks out the most for me is The Lost King of France by Deborah Cadbury. This is a book I read for level 11, and it will be in level 11. And this is about the French Revolution, but it's sort of one of those micro-histories. The hook of this is that they're using DNA to solve the mystery of the son of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette, and what happened to him. There was this big mystery, which I found very interesting because while I thought I knew a bit about the French Revolution, I mean, I know the basics, somehow I never knew that this mystery was a thing, and I don't know how I missed that. I was excited about this book because I did need something that covered the basics of the French Revolution for level 11, but I wanted it to be done in an interesting way, and this book was just exactly what I was looking for. Deborah Cadbury wrote it almost like a novel, even though it's definitely nonfiction, and it was really interesting. She tells the story of the French Revolution from a pretty wide perspective, but still narrows in on what is happening to this prince. So it's focused on what happened to him, but she's also explaining like everything around it. So you get a pretty full picture of the French Revolution, even though it's narrowed in on the prince. And I really appreciate that while the DNA thing was the hook, you really don't get to that until the end. I worried that this was going to be too focused on the science of the DNA study and how they did that, but that really only comes into play at the very end of the book. She lays out like what happened during the actual French Revolution, but then the story of like all these people coming forward and saying, well, I am that lost prince. No, I am the lost prince, and how they determined who really was the lost prince and what happened to him. And so it was just, I found it fascinating. I really enjoyed the history, the way she wrote it, and I found myself wanting more. I really want more. If you know of any really good documentaries on the French Revolution or movies, I want a good movie, and the only one I really have ever seen was the Marie Antoinette with Kirsten Dunst that came out in like the early 2000s, and while I liked it, it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. Pet peeve, I hate when people take a historic event or a historic story and modernize it. I don't want modern music. I don't want people using slang that would never have been around in that time period. Like, I hate that. Just give me the historic event as it would have been. End of rant. I loved this book and you should read it. The 2 TV shows I watched, one is actually a mini-series and one is a full TV show. My husband and I binged Cobra Kai at the beginning of the month. I loved it. Like, to be honest, I didn't want to watch it. I heard about it, my husband was all excited, and I was like, ooh, I don't know. I don't like when people try to revive something that had its heyday like 30 years ago. I loved the Karate Kid movies back in the 80s. I loved them. And I didn't really think I needed a continuation of that. Like, it was fine, it was perfect. Leave it be. So I wasn't sure how I felt about the whole, like, Cobra Kai. The whole idea of it just rubbed me wrong, and I was like, ugh. Especially since I heard, like, that it was gonna kind of put a twist, and I didn't know how I felt about it. So I went in very hesitant. And oh my gosh, you guys, I loved it. I thought it was so good. I loved the way they played it. I loved that it did flip it, but it didn't flip it in the way that I thought it did. The basic premise is that you're kind of following Johnny. Now, it's 30 years later. He is having a hard time in life, and he's kind of at the end of his rope, and he meets this kid who he sees getting bullied, and he steps in and kicks these guys' ass, and like, it's sort of a twist of what happened with Daniel and Mr. Miyagi in the original movie. So anyway, this kid looks at him like this hero now, and he wants to learn how to fight like that. And he's kind of a skinny kid, just like Daniel was. And so he's sort of, you know, Johnny is Johnny. He has no qualms about being the bully he always was. He's still that guy. But somehow I found him likable. And you realize that he's still human. Some bad stuff happened to him, and, you know, he became what he became. And they don't play that as any, and he's bullying these kids because that's the only way he knows how to teach karate, because that's how he was taught karate. And so, I don't know, I thought that was great. I loved the twist they had, and I don't want to tell you too much because I think the magic of it was not really knowing what was going to happen. I found it touching. Like, I wasn't expecting the emotional depth that I got out of it. So I loved Cobra Kai. I'm excited to know that there's going to be a season 2. Yeah, I think you can get a 30-day free trial of YouTube Red. So you can sign up, binge the season. I think there's like 13 episodes. You can sign up, binge the whole season, and then get rid of it, and you don't have to pay for anything. So it might be worth it for you to do that. I think it was worth it. So yeah, I highly recommend Cobra Kai, especially if you were a fan of the Karate Kid movies. The other show I wanted to talk about is the miniseries Little Women. My daughter and I had heard about this ages ago, like a year ago. We heard that they were making it, and I got excited, but also a little nervous because I have a favorite Little Women adaptation. Little Women is one of my favorite books. I loved that book as a child. I must have read it 100 times. I practically knew it by heart. So I also, the 90s version with Winona Ryder is my favorite version of Little Women. I watched that movie like religiously, and I adore it. So when I heard about this new adaptation, I got excited, but also a little bit nervous because I don't really want to mess with what I love. So anyway, we watched it this past month, and I have to say, it was pretty good. The actress that plays Amy, I didn't like, and so that she ruined Amy for me. No, I don't want to say she ruined Amy, but I didn't like her version of Amy. I don't know. I also found it weird because the version that I know, the Winona Ryder 90s version, Amy has 2 actresses. Young Amy is Kirsten Dunst, and older Amy is Samantha Morton, I think. I might be wrong. But they cast 2 very distinct people because in the beginning she's like 12 years old, and by the end she's an adult. So it bugged the crap out of me that they didn't do that. So you have this girl playing Amy that I'm supposed to believe as a 12-year-old, but then also as a 20-year-old. I couldn't. It didn't work for me at all. It didn't make sense that she didn't age. The girl that played Beth was perfect. I really loved who they cast as Joe and Meg. I loved almost everything. I even liked Lori, and I really liked, that's the other thing, I really liked how they played the Lori-Joe, I don't want to call it romance, his desperate love for Joe. I liked how they played that, because in the 90s version, and I guess you see it more in the book too, it's been a while since I read the book, but in the 90s version, it's sort of like all of a sudden Lori wants to marry her, and it kind of always felt like out of the blue, even though it doesn't, because they were friends for years, and he always seemed a little bit flirty, but never like that flirty. So for him to come out and like propose was just sort of out of nowhere, and I felt like I felt Jo's restraint and like just wanting to say no because she wasn't prepared. So I appreciate in this adaptation that they really gave you the scope of like, he's been trying for a while to get her on board with this and it wasn't working. So I thought that was really well done. What I didn't like, again, it's Amy. I don't like the girl that played Amy, I think. But I didn't like how out of nowhere his proposing to Amy was. I don't know, it didn't work for me. They didn't give that enough time to develop into a romance. It was just sort of, oh, hey, I'm in Europe too. Let's get married. I don't know. Again, I think it's because I didn't like the actress that played Amy. It just did not work for me at all. Not at all. Overall, I think I would give that a 4 stars. I liked it a lot, but I don't know that I would go back and rewatch it, to be honest. I think I'm more likely to rewatch the 90s Winona Ryder Little Women, but that's just because it's my favorite. The last thing I want to talk about, this is a Mother's Day gift from my husband, and it is the Everlast from Rocketbook. This is a reusable notebook, and it's exactly what it says it is. It's reusable. You can write in the notebook, and then it doesn't come off. You can rub it all you want, it's not going to go anywhere. But if you take a damp cloth and wipe this, it'll wipe it completely clean and you can reuse it. You have an app on your phone. You can take a picture. See, it's got a little thing there down here. So you can take a picture of this and it'll scan the page so it doesn't look like a picture, it's a scan, and it'll put it on the computer for you. I have it set up to go to Evernote, and I can also put it in my Google Drive. So the idea being that you're using less paper, which is fabulous because I am a notebook addict and I go through a lot of notebooks. I love pens and paper and stationery and things, so yeah, I go through a lot of notebooks. So this, especially for when I'm working on lesson plans and stuff, this is just awesome because I can scan it, put it in the computer, and then I can use that to type up whatever I need. The only thing that would make it cooler is if it scanned it and then put it in type so that you could just copy paste and do whatever with it. I would love that because sometimes my handwriting leaves a lot to be desired. The other thing is you can only use friction pens with the Rocketbook. This is the only thing that works. You can't, it's not erasable on this. I mean, it's erasable in that you can wipe it clean, but you can't use the erasers from these on the Rocketbook. It doesn't work. It just smudges the crap out of it and it can leave some of the residue when you go wipe it clean, so I don't recommend erasing with the erasers. But this is the pen that you need to write in this, and so any friction pen, I believe, but I have these. And it comes with, when you buy it, it comes with a black pen. So I actually have 2 of those now. But yeah, so I'm liking this. I've used it quite a bit. I've erased quite a bit. So far I think it's pretty good. I might do another review in another month or so after I've used it for a little bit longer, and I'll let you guys know how it's held up. But yeah, so far I'm liking it quite a lot, and I think it's going to save a lot of paper for me. So those are my favorite things from the month of May. Did you have any favorites this month that you want to tell me about? I'd love to talk about it down below. If you want to talk about any of the things I mentioned in this video, I'd love to chat. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do. Click on the little bell on the subscribe button if you want to be notified every time I upload a video. I do try to upload at least once a week. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Happy reading. Bye!